We begin with some breaking news tonight. The fate of TikTok could fall into the hands of the next administration. President-elect Trump today asking the Supreme Court to push back the deadline for a possible ban on the CCP-linked platform. Some of Trump's attorneys said Trump will, quote, negotiate a resolution to save the platform while addressing the national security concerns. Earlier this year, Congress passed a bipartisan bill that would force TikTok to divest from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, or else face a ban in the U.S. market. Lawmakers and national security experts said the app could serve as the Trojan horse for China to harvest American user data. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear TikTok's challenges to the law next month. But as of now, the social media platform will be dropped from app stores on January 19th, which is one day before Trump's inauguration. And the latest on the deadly Azerbaijan Airlines plane crash. Survivors now say they heard explosions before the crash, and the Kremlin responding to allegations that its air defense system shot down the plane. NDD's international correspondent Aeran has the latest on the tragic crash.
An airplane from Azerbaijan Airlines crashed on Christmas Day, killing 38 people. The plane experienced some kind of issues after entering Russian airspace. A lawmaker from Azerbaijan says Russia's air defense system shut the plane down. The Kremlin responded on Friday.
The investigation of this aviation incident is underway, and until conclusions of this investigation are released, we do not consider ourselves free to make any assessment.
Footage shows holes in the wreckage of the plane, and a passenger who survived the crash now says she heard explosions.
About 20 or 30 minutes after takeoff, we felt two explosions. The plane was supposed to land, but it didn't. Something exploded inside twice.
Also, Russia's aviation chief now confirms that the airspace where the plane had issues was actually closed due to incoming Ukrainian attacks.
Ukrainian combat drones were mounting terrorist attacks on civil infrastructure in the area. Due to this, the carpet plan was introduced, meaning all aircraft had to leave the indicated airspace immediately.
Also on Friday, Azerbaijan Airlines says its preliminary investigation indicates that the plane did suffer external interference. And the reason for the crash isn't the only question that remains open. Another is why the pilot crossed the Caspian Sea all the way to Kazakhstan instead of landing in Russia, where the issue took place. Russia's aviation chief says it was because of fog in the area.
Nothing could be seen at an altitude of 500 meters. The captain tried to land the aircraft twice. The attempts were unsuccessful. He decided to head to Kazakhstan.
This has not been confirmed by any other nations yet. More information is expected to be released as investigations continue. Aeran, NTD News.
An update on Seoul Typhoon, the massive hacking campaign from the Chinese Communist Party. The White House now says a ninth telecom company was compromised. The full extent of the campaign is still unknown, but it targeted Americans' data for texting and calling. The U.S. condemns the Hong Kong government over issuing arrest warrants for pro-democracy activists living abroad. The State Department is calling on Hong Kong to stop using its so-called national security laws to silence dissidents. NTD's Jason Blair reports.
The United States condemns 6 new arrest warrants and bounties issued by the Hong Kong government targeting pro-democracy activists in other countries. In a statement, the U.S. Department of State says the U.S. rejects the Hong Kong government's efforts to intimidate and silence people who choose to make the U.S. their home. The department says the extraterritorial application of Hong Kong's national security law is a form of transnational repression that threatens U.S. sovereignty and the human rights and fundamental freedoms of people all over the world. These actions demonstrate Hong Kong authorities' disregard for international norms and for the rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. Since 2020, the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, has imposed a national security law in Hong Kong. The city was previously a colony of the UK until it was returned to China under the Sino-British Declaration. The national security law has given Beijing extensive control to crack down on dissent and erode Hong Kong's previous freedoms. The Chinese Communist Party also announces sanctions on 7 companies in response to recent U.S. aid to Taiwan. President Biden announced $571 million in military aid to Taiwan last week. The Defense Department also recently said that $295 million in military sales to Taiwan has been approved. The CCP claims that the self-governing island belongs to them. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
South Korea's parliament today impeached acting President Han Duck-soo. This just 2 weeks after they voted to suspend President Yoon Suk-yeol's powers over his short-lived declaration of martial law. The acting president's party boycotted the impeachment vote today. It started when Han refused to immediately appoint 3 justices to the country's constitutional court. He said that's not his job, but the president's. That very same constitutional court held the first hearing for Yoon today, the original president who declared martial law. It could overturn his impeachment and reinstate him or remove him permanently from office. The finance minister now assumes the acting presidency. The South Korean currently plunged into the lowest since 2009 in its currency. The new year will see a new Congress and new leaders for each chamber. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez walks us through what we expect to see happening on the Hill this coming January.
On January 3rd, Speaker Mike Johnson will attempt to be re-elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives. So far, he stands unchallenged, but he has already lost the support of one of the 220 Republican congressmen that will be sworn in the new year. He can only afford to lose 2 more.
In January, we will make a sea change in Washington. President Trump will return to D.C. and to the White House, and we will have Republican control of the Senate and the House. Things are going to be very different around here. This was a necessary step to bridge the gap, to put us into that moment where we can put our fingerprints on the final decisions on spending for 2025.
After the next speaker is elected, we expect to see the official resignation of New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who was tapped by President-elect Donald Trump to be his new UN ambassador. We also expect to see the official resignation of Florida Congressman Mike Waltz, who is to be Trump's next national security advisor. And we also heard from former Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is no longer a member of Congress, but he's teasing with a return to Capitol Hill.
My fellow Floridians have asked me to eye the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. Maybe special counsel to go after the insider trading for my former colleagues in Congress. It seems I may not have had enough support in the United States Senate. Maybe I'll just run for Marco Rubio's vacant seat in the United States Senate and join some of those folks.
On the Senate side, Mitch McConnell is stepping down after nearly 2 decades at the helm of the Senate Republican Conference. Mitch McConnell has already warned his detractors that he will continue to push for his beliefs as chairman of the Armed Services Subcommittee in the Appropriations Committee.
But today our nation faces one great challenge from forces betting on our decline. And so that first duty of government is the task to which I'll devote my efforts in the coming years.
Senator John Thune from South Dakota will take over as the next Senate Majority Leader. The Senate will also see the departures of J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. J.D. Vance will assume the vice presidency, and Marco Rubio is yet to be confirmed as the next Secretary of State. On January 6, 2025, Congress will have to certify the result of the presidential elections before Trump's inauguration. It is crucial to note that after the official resignation of Congressman Mike Waltz and Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, the House majority in the House of Representatives will be left to 218 Republicans. That means that if Democrats decide to boycott any sort of legislation, Republicans will not be able to lose a single vote. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
As we near a second Trump term, why is the Trump team divided over H-1B visas for foreign workers? Joining us to discuss is Morgan Bonwell, founder and CEO of Right Strategies. Morgan Bonwell, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So first, let's dive into, of course, the biggest news these 2 days. Trump's team is appearing divided over H-1B visas, and these visas are given to highly skilled workers in specialized jobs, especially in engineering and tech companies. Morgan, why do you think so many Trump supporters appear to be against them, and how could this play out?
Yeah, so I think the biggest issue that Trump supporters are seeing is that we do have a surplus of American workers at home who are skilled. And part of the campaign was that we're going to put America first, make America great again. So we really want to make sure that our tech sector is homegrown, which means reducing H-1B visas would ultimately protect American workers and jobs.
And on the political aspects of this, we are seeing, for example, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy getting some pushback for their support of H-1B visas. So how much do you think their influence might shape immigration policies, and what could that mean for President-elect Trump's political base?
Yeah, I think they definitely have his ear, right? Their support is tremendous, and I think aided in the win that he had, but ultimately it's President Trump's decision. He's not one to shy away from telling someone what he really thinks. Think of RFK. He says, you handle the health, but you have nothing to do with our energy. And so I think we could see kind of a similarity between that RFK Trump dynamic and the Vivek Elon dynamic here with H-1B visas.
And now moving to inauguration news, we have heard Trump's inauguration is reportedly drawing record-breaking donations, including from tech companies like Amazon, Meta, and OpenAI. So how should Americans understand this? Is this level of corporate involvement typical?
Yeah, so it's always typical. I think, one, this is showing the support that the American people and ultimately business owners have for a pro-business growth and opportunity president. But I also think this is a form of apology from some of these big tech companies who have really thrown Trump through the ringer for the last 8 years. So I think this is a good faith effort on their part to show that they want to work with President Trump and they are willing to come to the table. And I think for President Trump, this shows just how big of a win this is. He's got record donations for his inauguration. He won by record numbers. It was a complete mandate. And I think the American people and these business owners who have put so much stress on him for the last 8 years are finally coming to terms with that.
Well, a lot to watch for us. We, of course, will see the Trump new term start to take a shape very soon. Thank you so much, Morgan. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.